That's a deflection.
Yeah, so speaking of visibility,
First night ride ever on a trail for me. Definitely feeling the lack of visibility. You know, you're kind of later at seeing things. I feel like judging the depth of like holes and stuff is a little harder too. Maybe I'm just not used to it, but that's my initial impression.
probably the biggest observation I had with respect to lights and visibility is that I really felt the lack of good visibility during turns, specifically in terms of looking through the turn. It's not about being able to go faster or something like that. It's just from a technique perspective, it's a traditional struggle, wanting to look through the turn to get to apply the right technique. And if you only have black nets, that's not very useful. So I think a headlight, so you can point in the direction you want to light up, or maybe I think the term might be floodlights, just having lights on the bike that are actually dedicated to brightening up towards the sides might be helpful, although I don't know how much the latter would work. I'm curious to any experiences, feel free to comment. But that was, I think, the biggest realization for me. So I'm now very interested in improving the lighting on the bike and or my helmet.
Well, one thing is that it's easier to see my speedometer because it's lit up and super obvious in the dark. Not that I'm really using it anyway on trails. Cornering is a little spooky, I have to say, in the dark like this. Like when it's pitch black, like it's different than riding in the street. Now that you have like basically zero visibility if you don't have some headlight pointing to the area. Not zero, but almost. An unexpected benefit that is kind of obvious, but I didn't think of it, is that it's easier to see that whoever is behind me is still behind me, because you see the light much more easily. I will say it helps a lot that I've gone down this trail like a bazillion times in daylight, or I would not feel as confident with the reduced visibility. It helps that they've cut some of the vegetation relative to like a year ago, so there's less stuff like sticking out randomly, which might actually be the biggest visibility issue when riding like this. You have something that's not necessarily even a terrain issue, just like something sticking out. And then you have, especially if you don't have high beams on, I could see not seeing like a stick or something.
So I realize that I'm probably just quote-unquote discovering things that people who are experienced with off-roading at night are completely well aware of. But for me, it's sort of a new thing, and I haven't really thought about it too much before then. So I think that's another reason, most likely, to have really good lights, right? Because you want elevated lighting. Like even if it's not as bright, even if it's not so bright that as a high beam, maybe you want something that's bright enough that you can at least tell within a reasonable amount of distance if something's sticking out and it's high up above the ground but still low enough to like hit you in the head or something, but you're not so bright that you're blinding somebody in front of you. I don't know if that's a thing. I'll have to investigate.
This is one of those. This is the section with the most embedded rocks, I would say, on this trail, and more so on the right, honestly. So I'm kind of taking the more rocky side, but on the other hand, I'm further away from the edge, so I'm okay with that. And it's on the right side anyway, so it's preferable from that perspective too. This is odd. I was talking in a past video about how the burnt parts felt like a different trail. Now it's a little different because I don't really see that it's burnt because you don't see anything. So the trail feels more familiar in one way, like the terrain, and like I know which turn I'm on and stuff like that. So it feels like the same terrain or same trails. It doesn't feel foreign. It just feels different. It's like a bizarro version of the same trail. Okay, so we're about to enter some sandy whoops in the freaking dark. This will be interesting. And yeah, depth is definitely harder to judge.
Yeah, you know how on video things never seem as difficult or extreme as in person, especially with respect to the sort of elevation changes and depth of ruts or things like that. I felt like this became kind of the real life equivalent of that. Like if you watch a typical video of that daylight riding and you've observed the difference between what it looks like on camera and what it looks like in person, if you've recorded yourself, this kind of felt like I'm in person feeling it looks as difficult in person as it normally looks on the video, because it's dark and I'm not seeing the depth of things in the same way. So it was a really interesting kind of feeling almost.
That's a deflection.
Yeah, so speaking of visibility, I actually am not entirely sure what that was. Might have been a rock, it might have been a depression in the terrain. I'm not entirely sure, and it's not really visible on video. But that was an example of not being able to read the terrain as easily. Like whatever happened there, it probably wouldn't have happened in daylight.
I have to say, I definitely feel like I got used to the dark. Not saying it's the same as riding in the daylight, but definitely lost some of that sort of skittishness that I had for the first, 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah, by the time we were going down at this point, this was on the way down, and by the time we were going back down, I was starting to feel really comfortable. Might be dangerous, maybe I was too comfortable, I don't know, but I was starting to feel like I hit the groove. I could just go comfortably. Yeah, I would go slower, I would do things differently than I would do in the daylight, but it felt comfortable, right? I didn't feel as alert. Like it wasn't the constant like, ooh, this is new and different, right? So didn't take too long to get used to it. So that'll conclude this video. I just wanted to share my experiences doing it for the very first time. Thanks for watching.